Why do smart people fall for stupid conspiracies? It seems paradoxical. The people most likely to quote Bertrand Russell or Daniel Kahneman at dinner parties turn out to be the same people sharing baroque YouTube videos about lizard monarchs or vast cannibal cults. Conspiracies, the story goes, are for the credulous, the small-minded, the desperate. But time and again, history shows that intellectuals and highly educated elites often become some of the most enthusiastic consumers and propagators of conspiratorial thinking. Why? Let's start with the obvious. Intelligence and rationality are not synonyms. Intelligence, in the narrow sense, is the ability to manipulate symbols, detect patterns, and solve problems. Rationality is the disposition to use those abilities in a truth-tracking way. And history is littered with examples where one is present without the other. The human brain is a pattern-finding machine. And this is adaptive in most contexts, figuring out the path of migrating herds or the rhythms of seasonal change. But intelligence supercharges this instinct. Smart people can find patterns where none exist. They can build intricate castles of logic on a flimsy foundation. And they can weave a ludicrous story so internally coherent that it's almost dazzling, even when it's completely detached from reality. So Isaac Newton, perhaps the most brilliant mind of his age, spent years of his life immersed in physics and mathematics, but also in alchemy and biblical prophecy. His genius for systems and hidden harmonies, massively important in mechanics and optics, led him into rabbit holes of esoteric speculation. The same mind that deciphered gravity also tried to calculate the end of days from the Book of Daniel. Intelligence equipped him to generate not fewer, but more intricate errors. And this is the appeal of the grand narrative. Conspiracies are stories. They offer a sense of order, an assurance that events aren't random, they're orchestrated. The Roman historian Tacitus observed that when emperors died, rumors of poisoning spread almost inevitably. Ordinary people wanted an explanation more satisfying than sometimes men fall ill. Conspiracy is a narrative technology for turning uncomfortable chaos into easily digestible drama. Smart people, the folks steeped in literature, philosophy, and political theory, are wildly prone to this temptation. They're drawn to systems that explain everything. Marxism and Freudianism, in their most reductionist forms, functioned almost as conspiracies. The entire surface of social reality was recoded as the mask of deeper forces. To understand appearances, you had to see through them. And that way of thinking is intoxicating to anyone who's read too much Dostoevsky or Nietzsche. But there's another driver here, and it's ego. Being the person who sees what others cannot is delicious. It flatters intelligence. After all, what good is brilliance if it leads only to the same conclusions reached by the pedestrian masses? To buy into a conspiracy is to buy into the idea that your mind is one of the select few sharp enough to pierce the veil. The literary critic Harold Bloom argued that poets are driven by an anxiety of influence and the desperate need to distinguish their voice from their predecessors. And something similar happens with intellectuals and conspiracy theories. They offer a way to differentiate, to stake out a position that is contrarian, even heretical. Consider how Voltaire's wit sharpened itself against the dogmas of his time. For less rigorous minds, the same contrarian instinct might lead to QAnon. The Dreyfus Affair of late 19th century France mobilized some of the country's most sophisticated minds in defense of a conspiracy theory that Captain Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer, was secretly betraying France to Germany. The accusations were false, but they fit an anti-Semitic pattern that many intellectuals were drawn to. The case divided the nation along lines of temperament, not education. During the Cold War, American intellectuals of very real stature flirted with the idea that every social ill could be traced back to either CIA plots or Soviet interference, depending on your perspective. In the Soviet Union, meanwhile, some of the most literate and cultured men and women of their generation believed deeply in fabricated charges about wreckers and saboteurs undermining socialism from within. The conspiratorial mindset didn't spare the highly educated. If anything, their training made them more articulate advocates of delusion. There is an element of curiosity here. Smart people enjoy puzzles. They enjoy working through coded documents, secret correspondences, hidden signals. A conspiracy theory offers endless opportunity for this kind of interpretive work. Every new event is a clue, every denial is evidence of the cover-up. The hermeneutic circle never closes. In Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum, 3 editors invent a fake conspiracy as a private joke, only to be engulfed by real believers who take their fiction more seriously than they do. Eco understood the way cleverness can curdle into credulity. But what about skepticism? Isn't that a defense? Well, smart people are trained to doubt, to challenge authority, to poke holes in official narratives, and this is healthy up to a point. The problem is that radicalized skepticism can collapse into cynicism. Every official statement becomes suspect, every institution corrupt, every denial confirmation, and that way lies brain rot. In Richard Hofstadter's famous essay, The Paranoid Style in American Politics, he noted that American intellectual traditions, born in revolution, nurtured in a frontier suspicion of government, made conspiratorial thinking especially attractive. To be a skeptic has been noble ever since, but to be an unending skeptic is to fall into paranoia. The internet has multiplied the problem. Conspiracies thrive in networked spaces where arguments can be endlessly elaborated and where communities reward intellectual display. Ideas and ideologies that used to be confined to fringe pamphlets now have an infinite forum for the clever and the obsessive. On Reddit or Substack, smart people build baroque facades of speculation, and they receive applause from equally clever peers and the not-so-clever fans. On Reddit or Substack, smart people build baroque facades of speculation and receive applause from equally clever peers and less clever sycophants. In these circles, being the sharpest theorist of the secret plot is a form of status. In 18th century Europe, Enlightenment thinkers passed around tracts speculating about Jesuit intrigues or Masonic dominance. What the café pamphlet was to Voltaire's Paris, the viral thread is to our world, and the difference is scale. Never before have so many smart people been able to devote so much time to endlessly refining each other's most idiotic suspicions. And these suspicions are a marker of in-group status. Rejecting belief is a sign that you're just too naive to see the elusive truth. People who define themselves by the circles they inhabit find their identity tangled up with these narratives. When a conspiracy becomes a shared intellectual project, to doubt is not only to risk being wrong, but to risk exile from your chosen community. But why do the stupidest conspiracies, flat earth, lizard people, attract the smart as well as the gullible? Maybe it's because their stupidity is a feature. The dumber the theory, the greater the intellectual thrill of defending it. To make a sophisticated case for an absurd proposition is itself an exercise in virtuosity. Like a lawyer arguing an impossible case, the conspiracy theory-toting intellectual relishes the difficulty. It's Danny Crane for Pizzagate. If there is an antidote, it's in humility. Smart people have to remember that brilliance is no guarantee against error, and that complexity does not equal truth, and that intelligence is not the same thing as wisdom. To think probabilistically, to accept uncertainty, is less thrilling than a grand narrative, but it's a damn sight more faithful to reality. So why do smart people fall for stupid conspiracies? Because the very qualities that make them smart, their pattern recognition, their skepticism, their hunger for meaning, their pride in being different, are the same qualities that make them vulnerable. History, literature, and psychology converge on this point. Intelligence without humility, learning without restraint, curiosity without discipline, are a recipe for discovery, yes, but also delusion. This is a paradox that will never go away. There will always be clever Newtons reading too much into scripture, witty Voltaires dallying with secret societies, modern PhDs posting elaborate threads about shadowy cabal. Perhaps the most we can do is remember that intelligence, like fire, illuminates and burns, and the line is often thinner than we think.